Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype here on your Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Let's go and take a look at what we're tracking here for your forecast. Obviously, it's election day. Yep, we finally made it. We'll take a look at the election weather across the country here for today. We're going to talk about Tropical Storm Rafael. We still have some uncertainty on this track as we are expecting it to enter the Gulf, but where it goes from there, still some differences of opinion there. And then we're going to talk about maybe a potential pattern shift here. We'll talk about that as well. Now, before we get into this report, I first want to thank the new subscribers to the channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed, what you waiting for? It's a free service and it's for you. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you can do me a favor, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. It helps with the almighty YouTube algorithm as we try to continue to grow the channel. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our latest satellite imagery here in the country. You got this storm system. This is the one that's been responsible for that severe weather that's been lasting for several days. Again, yesterday, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, all got nailed pretty good. Had a few tornadoes out there as well. Got another big storm system out here coming out on the West Coast. Some snows up there into areas of Montana and Wyoming for this morning. Pretty quiet up and down the eastern seaboard. So eastern seaboard voting conditions looking pretty good. Wet in the middle of the country, and depending on where you are out west, may have to be dodging some rain and maybe even a little snow here and there. But so anywhere heading up into Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, coming down here toward areas toward Little Rock and down across East Texas, that's going to be where the rainy, stormy conditions are going to be here for today. Much colder there in the middle of the country. Got 30s and 20s here, but very relatively mild, very warm here across the eastern seaboard. Yeah, I mean, New York City sitting at 47, really not bad. It's sitting here in the 50s, even some 70s down here for this morning here across areas of the deep south. All right, let's take a look at your current watches and warnings. We got numerous flood warnings here in the middle of the country. We knew this was going to be a problem. The rain is training over the same ground, so a lot of flash flood warnings up in here. That's that darker brown color there coming from Illinois down through Arkansas. Wind advisories here, some foggy conditions, and of course we've got some of the winter weather. Obviously the pink there is your winter storm warnings out here across portions of Montana and Idaho here for today. All right, let's talk about St. Louis. Again, getting some pretty good heavy rains here across the region for the morning ride into work. Definitely rainy and damp, and this is pushing off very slowly. But it'll be later this afternoon before this rain starts to let up and getting up towards Springfield as well with that wet and rainy weather. Now, our weather city of the day is going to be Seaside Heights, New Jersey. They're going to have an excellent voting day here for today. In fact, we're expecting sunny skies here this afternoon and a high temperature of 69 degrees. And hey, if you'd like to nominate your city as the weather city of the day, you know, the good webcam, perhaps on the internet or perhaps on YouTube, just go ahead and post that link down below and I'll consider it for a future broadcast. All right, so now it's time to look over at the Storms Prediction Center and see what they're looking for as far as some active weather for today. We got that in the cards, and well, not as bad as yesterday, that's for sure. You can see a noticeable change here. As we're only kind of looking at a couple areas where we might see some marginal severe weather. Got a little pocket up here into Wisconsin here that might impact the voters. And of course, down here across southern Arkansas, going through parts of Texas and Louisiana here for today. Just a general thunderstorm threat across Florida, maybe parts of the Florida Panhandle, but otherwise not really looking all that bad for today. Again, the risk for weather, any kind of real active severe weather is not bad. Just a couple of pockets here. Maybe an isolated weak tornado there. Again, looking up there toward Wisconsin area. And down here along that marginal risk as well. Again, anything that spins up will be pretty weak and should not be that big a deal. Nothing like we had on par for yesterday. That is for sure. Let's take a look at the day two outlook here. We'll step into day two. Just a general thunderstorm threat here across the deep south. Although we do have that slight risk. We might get some of the outer bands here from our hurricane that might be a slight risk down here toward the Florida Keys. That's probably the only thing to really be concerned about there. And as far as we go out toward day three, let's check out the day three outlook here. Again, we got a little pocket of marginal severe weather that's kind of popping up here as we head into Texas. So we're looking at down there towards central Texas, seeing a marginal risk. And some needed rains and some general thunderstorm threat there across Alabama and Georgia as we look at your day three outlook. So we're looking at on your Thursday right there. So, all right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at where the heavy rain excess is going to be. Obviously, where we're seeing the heavy rains currently is the main concern there. You got that risk there with that, again, that rain kind of training over the same ground. So that's going to be a problem for today for voters in those areas. Just again, watch out for the heavy rain that's falling into that area. Let's go ahead and take a look at your day two outlook here. Let's go look at your day two here. As we look at that, this is going to shift over into the southeast, and this is needed rainfall. This area, if you don't know, has been dealing with some drought conditions across central Georgia and parts of the Carolinas. So I think they could take this rain pretty well, but some heavy rains, some isolated flooding locations, not out of the question there for your day 2. And as far as the day 3 outlook is concerned, just a couple of pockets we're kind of watching there out here toward the middle of the country, Oklahoma and Texas, and again here across the southeast, across Georgia, the Carolinas, and North Florida as we go in toward your Thursday. So those are our 3 zones there for the next few days. All right, we got to get into this first. Let's go and wrap up our severe weather outlook again. Madison, Wisconsin, Beaumont, Texas, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Lake Charles, and Appleton, Wisconsin. Those are our target zones for marginal severe weather for today. All right, now let's go ahead and get into the tropics. I always want to get a little ahead of myself as we do have Tropical Storm Rafael getting stronger, getting better organized, and we still got that area disturbed weather off to the north. Not overly concerned about that right now, showing a 20% chance of development in the next 7 days. So we're going to go ahead and get into the nuts and bolts here of our tropical system. Again, here's our track. Still forecast to be a minimal hurricane briefly as it gets into the Gulf. And then it's going to weaken. But notice again, we do have a very large cone of uncertainty. And the reason for this, we got a couple tracks that want to go this way. We got other tracks that want to go this way. So we got a diverging model data here, and I'm going to show you that here in a second of where exactly this system is going to go. But we do have the hurricane warnings that are up. Obviously here we're seeing that across ports of Cuba for right now. The Caymans are getting it right now as it'll be knocking on their front door here for later today and seeing some hurricane conditions potentially there. Again, minimal hurricane at this point as this continues to move to the north and west at about 13 miles per hour. Top winds right now holding at 60 miles per hour. So here is the satellite imagery. You clearly can see a system getting better organized here. You're getting a cluster of thunderstorms there right around that center of circulation. Decent outflow here across the storm as it's getting better organized. It's continuing to move up toward the western tip of Cuba there. We'll take a closer look on this satellite imagery. We switch over to another camera view here. As you can see, it's kind of moving by the island of Jamaica right now. And of course, they're getting inundated with some gusty winds. Obviously, a lot of heavy rain with this as this continues to move by them, but at least moving at a decent clip. I would say conditions across Jamaica should begin to improve by late this afternoon as it continues off in that northwesterly trajectory. All right, here's some of the a live camera here I wanted to show you, just show you the inundation of the heavy rains that are hitting Jamaica. This is normally a pretty quiet little creek here, this bridge cam. I've used it before in previous storms, but definitely seeing some heavy rains there. Going to be a bit of a problem with the flooding there on the island throughout the day until that storm goes by a little bit later for today. So let's talk about where the storm is heading. We're looking at the ESANS ensemble model here, and even the ESANS model is kind of hinting at that. Although the majority of the models are trekking it this way, you still got a few that are going up in this direction. So again, we got a difference of opinion, and what's driving this is really the placement of the high off here. How strong is this high going to be? If it starts to wedge or kind of push back toward the west, it's going to push the storm westward. If it stays weak, it'll allow the trough that's coming in here to pick it up and to kind of move it up toward the north. So again, it's just a kind of a timing mechanism and a really kind of a forecast mechanism of how strong that high is going to be, whether that's going to make that turn or not. And I think we'll get that locked down here in the next couple of days to see if that's going to work out or not. So let's go ahead and talk about the different models. Let's first take a look here at the European. Now, those who've watched this in the past, you know I tend to favor the European model. So this brings it up here to the north and west, brings it across the tip of Cuba, and then starts making a turn to the west. It starts making a turn to the west, and it just kind of fizzles on out. Turns to the west and just kind of dies out as it approaches the Texas coast there. So that's what the European model is doing. All right, let's compare this to the American GFS model. We got a different solution here. Notice we're pretty much in agreement here on the track. It does very similar at location here going across Cuba, but it does not turn it to the west. In fact, it goes and continues it to the northwest and brings it in somewhere near Mobile as a tropical storm. It'll obviously be much weaker than the conditions, especially the upper level conditions will not be as conducive as it gets up there. So this would definitely enhance the rain there across parts of Mississippi and Alabama if this is to verify, because they definitely could use the rainfall in that area. So that's what we're looking at. We got two different solutions here. And again, we'll give it a couple more days and we'll kind of get this kind of locked down exactly. Because when I see a cone that big from the Hurricane Center, they're like, oh, okay, let's flip a coin here. We really not exactly sure yet here with the steering currents where exactly that system's going to go. All right, let's go and take a look at the global pattern. We were talking earlier, I was telling you about potential pattern shift here. We're going to look at the upper level winds here. We're looking at the 500 millibar level here. as again, we're watching that one storm system begin to eject out. So this is our storm system here, kind of ejecting out here across the Great Lakes, bringing that wet and rainy. We still got this big trough here, though, out here in the west. Here's that high pressure off the southeast coast here that's been kind of dominant, keeping the conditions kind of dry across the southeast for a little while. So we're going to go and take this forward here. Is that, again, another little upper low here is going to get cut off here. Going to watch this closely, again, going into Friday. This is not looking as robust as yesterday, but again, thunderstorm threat here. We'll have to watch that. Maybe a marginal slight risk for severe weather with that system there. But we kind of go a little more zonal, at least briefly, with the main jet kind of up here for a little while. So we'll get a little bit of a west-east flow there. Now, as we go into next week, I think we're going to see some changes start to take place. We got another trough that's going to dig in here out on the west coast. Here it comes. Except this time around, it looks like this is going to go further off toward the east. And what that's going to mean is it's going to allow a ridge kind of build up there in the west. Look at this ridge here building off the west coast here. So the ridge builds up here and allows that jet stream to go like this. And when you get this kind of configuration, this opens up the door for some colder air to finally filter down there in the middle of the country and even getting to the eastern third of the United States. So this would be a significant pattern shift if this is to verify it out. I'd like to see a few more models on that. But taking this all the way out to Thursday, the 14th, you got a nice cold shot here coming down across the Great Lakes into the southeast. We'll see a warm up here out in the west if this is to verify. So pattern shift could be coming our way as we head toward the middle of the month. I would kind of expect that because we've been kind of stuck with this western cold and eastern warm pattern for a few weeks now. So we're probably due for a pattern shift. They usually don't last too terribly long. You're going to get a change in that jet stream to come eventually. And we'll see if this works out. But we'll check it against tomorrow's run to see if it shows any changes or not. So let's go ahead and take a look at the European model here. Again, now I'll say this once again. The weather across the southeast is really going to be dictated on where exactly what's left of Rafael is going to go. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and favor the European model. Now, one thing that this is doing regardless is we are getting some moisture that's going to get thrown out ahead of the system and into the southeast. So we're going to get some needed rains here regardless of whether this goes or not. The question is, if it does the GFS and goes in, obviously we're going to get more rains that fall down in this area if it goes to that northerly track. So the southeast forecast still a little bit in flux here later in the week. So for right now, we're going to bring this on through. That's going to move off toward the west and then kind of fizzle on out. Again, we're going to watch those thunderstorms going into Friday and Saturday. Again, couldn't rule out maybe a few severe weather with that going in across Oklahoma and Texas once again with that upper level low as we go into this upcoming weekend going into Friday and Saturday. So this moves up to the north, just some regular rains there, and we'll see Rafael kind of fizzle on out. And then going into next week, this is Monday of next week, pretty quiet, not looking too bad. A little pocket of some cold air here across portions of the Intermountain and the high plains there. But most of the country is relatively quiet there. But then we see that this dip in the jet stream start to take place. Remember, we got that big dip taking place. So we see this new storm system develop. You got the low pressure here across the Great Lakes. We got a trailing cold front here. And finally opening the door to some of this cold air come on down. Obviously warmer out ahead of the storm system here. And this is going to make a beeline and sweep across the south and even into the southeast. So this is finally going to get some of this cold air. This is the 540 line. This is the freezing line. So we've got some cold air coming down here into the deep south. Probably going to see some 30s show up for the first time since about mid-October, since we've seen that. About a month since that last cold shot that came on down. But definitely looking a little wet and rainy here on that Thursday, the 14th here across Florida. But definitely seeing that cold air coming down out of Canada, at least briefly, as we head toward the middle of the month. Now, as far as the precipitation is concerned, let's look at the southeast specifically here, as we're going to look at that surge of moisture coming in across Alabama and Georgia there. All right, so we're looking at that rain coming in for Wednesday and Thursday, getting some rain and some much needed rain for those locations that haven't seen a drop of rain really in about 5 weeks. It's been pretty dry here for the most part. And then we got to see what happens with the rest of that system. We get that next system, which goes into the following week, going to Thursday. I'll add some more rains across the south as well. So, but again, depending on where this track goes, if that track shifts, we will see heavier rains here across portions of Mississippi and Alabama if the track goes up toward the north. Let's look at the rest of the continental United States. Let's look at the rain here across the rest of the country. Again, you got that heavy rain there in the middle of the country still falling on through. So this is, get that out of there, sorry about that. There we go. So this rainfall here is continuing to fall from what we're seeing with that frontal system there in the middle of the country. So that'll continue to rack up there. Also got some heavy rain there across the northwest. But notice we're kind of dry here across California and most of Arizona here for the next 7 days. Is going to stay pretty much on the dry side. Let's track that cold air. Again, we're going to look at the 850 level, so we're looking at 5,000 feet. You see those blues and the greens and the darker colors. That's obviously your cold air out here in the west. Definitely very warm here across areas of the Great Lakes here as we start this model run. So let's go ahead and track this. As we see this go on by here a little bit, we kind of push that very warm air out of New England out Wednesday. It's going to be pretty warm up here in the northwest, in the northeast. That's for sure. Cold out here in the west as we go into your Wednesday. And as we go through time, we kind of beat that down a little bit. At least it's more normal. It's still a lot of the east still looking very, very warm there indeed. Or you only got really a cold pocket here. A couple of zones going into Friday. This across the Four Corners region. A little bit here across the northeast. Very warm up here in the high plains and in the southeast as we go through coming up to this upcoming weekend. But then we're going to watch that pattern change come at us. So that's what we're going to watch as this pushes on through. We're going to finally tap some cold air. This cold air is getting on the move. This stuff is on the move. And we're going to beat this very warm conditions. This is on Tuesday the 12th, so the day after Veterans Day next week. And as this goes on by, it pushes on through, and we got a nice cold snap here coming on down here across the Great Lakes, pushing into the southeast, and seeing warmer conditions out here in the west as a result. Still some residual cool air out here across the Four Corners, but this is a significant pattern change that'll bring some much colder conditions for a part of the country that's for the most part has been relatively warm here or above normal really for the last week. Now, with that said, we'll look at the climate outlook as I do expect later today we might see some changes with this. So let's look here right now, days 6 through 10. This is taking us out to the 10th to the 14th. So the 10-day model out was showing that cold air coming in sometime around the 14th or 15th. So if that is to verify out, this particular outlook here might change. So right now it's showing the colder weather in the west, warmer weather here in the east, and it holds it there from the 12th to the 18th. So we'll probably wait and see what happens with the 12Z afternoon run here today. And if it looks just like the 0Z run did, then this map here is going to change as this cold air is going to shift back toward the east. But again, we'll get another model run to see if that's going to verify or not. Precipitation-wise, it's staying on an active flow here with above normal precipitation for a big part of the country from the 10th to the 14th through Veterans Day, and then that'll continue from the 12th to the 18th as well. Again, with this precipitation. Now, I will say this: if that cold air, the troughiness shifts further to the east, this might be a little bit drier here out in the west over the same period. So I do suspect that the long-range climate outlook, which will come out later this afternoon about 3:30. That map might change based off what the 12Z or the day run of the model show here, especially on the European model, as we go in throughout later today. So that's what we're looking at, folks. Again, I hope you're able to get out and get your voting done. I know we got some rainy conditions there in the middle of the country. We're not done with the severe weather yet. We got to watch that next little system, that low pressure system that's going to come out heading into Friday and Saturday. So we'll be watching Texas and obviously here in parts of Oklahoma. And obviously, what's Rafael going to do? It's going to have an impact. Is it going to just, with the European dust, stay out in the Gulf and just kind of fizzle on out? Or is it going to do what the American GFS model says and steer it into the southeast? So stay tuned. I'll give you updates on that. I do hurricane shorts. They're little 1-minute segments there. So if you'd like to get that in your YouTube feed, all you got to do, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always with this report or any report that I do appreciate your feedback. If there's something you'd like to see, please leave me a comment down below. I do appreciate you guys supporting the channel. All right, that's your morning daily update for today. You guys be good, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next report. Until then, be good. Bye-bye.